Welcome to Macabre Musings, the podcast that dives headfirst into the dark, the taboo, and the unheard. Stories guaranteed to make your skin crawl and your pulse quicken. Join us as we unearth tales from the edge of belief, the paranormal, the twisted corridors of true crime, and folklore so vivid it feels alive. In each episode, we peel back civilization's polite veneer to expose the chilling underbelly of history and myth. Take a seat, steep your tea, warm that coffee up, splash those rocks with something stout, or crack open your finest brew. Kick back, relax, and let's begin. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Witch Day.
Happy Witch Day to you.
We are recording on the day that we were supposed to launch because I had technical difficulties.
We're here.
We're good.
We're here.
I am Bambi. I live in Louisiana.
I'm Amy, and I'm coming at you from some holler in the backwoods of West by God, Virginia. And we're your guides here at Macabre.Musings.Podcast.
So without further ado, let's creep into the history of our namesake. What is the macabre? It all began in medieval Europe centuries ago in the shadow of the Black Death. Clergy and artists conjured the image of Dance Macabre, the skeletal procession reminding all classes that death is the great equalizer. In France, this dance of death was called Dance Macabre, borrowing from the Latin Chorea Macabrum, itself linked to the biblical Maccabees. Painted murals and woodcut depicts kings and paupers alike clutching skeletons in a final morbid waltz. It begins to make its transition from Latin to Old French. As the term slipped into vernacular speech, Dance Macabre became macabre in Old French, a shorthand for any haunting depiction of mortality. Storytellers invoked macabre themes to cauterize fear, preaching moral lessons wrapped in grim spectacles. Soon, macabre shed its literal dance imagery and embraced a broader sense of eerie morbidity. Finally, crossing into English, by the late 18th century, English writers encountered macabre through Gothic novels and antiquarian translation of medieval texts. Poets and playwrights seized on its evocative power by simply labeling a scene macabre as conjured decay, shadowy crypts, and ghostly whispers. The word retained its French accent, a whispered incantation that suggested both art and horror. So what is macabre in modern culture? Today, macabre adorns everything from horror films and true crime podcasts to art exhibitions. Authors describing novelists' twists as macabre. Graphic designers employ black and white contrast, medieval dance macabre, and Halloween aficionados reveal in macabre decor. Skulls, ravens, and dripping blood. In every context, it signals a fascination with death's dark poetry. What does the macabre mean to you?
Horrifying, disturbing, and that can be a person, a place, a thing, an event.
Yes. For me, it is the darkness that people don't like to speak of. Okay, I'm going to start us out tonight with something soaked in lore and mystery, as it deals with magic so deep and buried that some forget it exists. While we know a lot about Salem and the witch trials there, what have you heard about the Appalachian or Granny Witches?
I'm an Appalachian granny witch, girl. Goals. Like goals.
All right, let's dive in. In the hollers and ridges of the Appalachian Mountains, isolation shaped a form of folk magic born of necessity and reverence. Cherokee and Choctaw herbal lore blended with the healing rituals of Scottish, Irish, and English settlers who fled persecution in Europe, forging what became known as granny witchcraft or root work. In these remote communities, matriarchs carried forward ancestral knowledge passed down through whispered recipes and midnight foraging trips under the moonlight. That sounds like a good time.
That's glorious.
As matriarchs, these granny witches served as midwives, healers, and custodians of community well-being. They knew which berries eased bladder troubles, which roots soothed burns, and how local herbs could staunch fever.
Like poultices?
Yes. In places where doctors were days away, these women provided vital care without charging a fee, keeping families alive through hard winters and lean harvests. Their magic wove faith and folk practice into a single tapestry.
Can I
Dowsing
interrupt you
rod.
for just a second?
Yes, ma'am.
You said they knew which berries eased bladder troubles and stuff like that. Is that where like the concept of if something in your body is bothering you, you eat a food shaped like that particular body part? Okay. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
Dowsing rods tapped underground springs. Catnip tea kept infants' hives at bay, and sulfur.
Dowsing rods are how they found the well down in the holler. Or well, yeah, I guess
Really?
over in the holler. In the holler.
They work. I've
Yes.
seen it.
The water witches, isn't that what they call the
Yep.
people that use the dowsing rods?
And also sulfur in shoes ease flu aches. I don't
Really?
want sulfur in my shoes, but if I had the flu, I'd probably be okay with it. When
Yeah.
a burn flared, a whispered charm invoking the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost would talk it right out of their skin.
Huh?
A blend of prayer and pragmatic healing that defined Appalachian folk magic.
That's cool. When my little brother burnt his foot
Uh-huh.
on a piece of charcoal that got dumped out of a grill, his dad was talking about how I think maybe his mom or grandmother, they would have done the rubbing around it and praying to get rid of the heat
Yes.
from it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we are not Appalachian witch grannies, and we had to take him to the ER.
Right. Which, unfortunately,
Yeah, unfortunate.
it really is. Unlike Salem or Europe's great witch hunts, Appalachia saw few trials and even fewer executions. Church and state remained more distant here, and communities fiercely protected their granny witches, valuing their gifts over the fear of diabolism. In West Virginia hollers, grand juries might probe a whispered rumor, but more often than not, the accused were quietly defended rather than condemned at the stake. Among the most celebrated granny witches, each Byron Ballard of Asheville founded the Mother Grove Goddess Temple, tracing her prophetic gift back 6 generations of Southern healers. A self-styled village witch, Ballard reclaimed the term witch to honor practices her foremothers once guarded in secret. Animist faith entwined with Christian devotion and old world enchantments, which people don't realize that a lot of the witchcraft things come from Christianity.
Yeah.
But they were blended more, I think, with the Appalachian witches.
It makes me sad that at some point these people were played out to be like evil devil worshiping people. They were just
Right.
following their faith.
When it really just stems from Christianity
Yeah.
itself. In North Carolina's Blue Ridge, Nikki Chester carries on her great-grandmother Lenny Bauckham Hodgen's teachings. Every morning, she feeds her cats before heading to her tiny house apothecary, foraging ginseng, sassafras, and tea berry to craft salves, tinctures sold online and by word of mouth. Chester's lineage of healers reminds us that granny magic endures as a living, breathing tradition. Virginia's kitchen witch, Debbie Moorfield Brown, preserves canning lore and home remedies, turning seasonal harvests into pickles that ward off mischief. I wouldn't have any luck with that because I don't eat pickles, but hey,
I love a good pickle.
I'm not a pickle person. Meanwhile,
I'd be wrong.
Tennessee's Samara Duncan explains that her family once used a book of Psalm, like a spell book, calling down blessings and protections in verse as they ground roots and steeples. The craft transcends gender. Animist Stephen Parks calls on plant spirits in his North Carolina studio. Water witch Nina Cox reads spring flows for guidance, and Rob Cox runs eclectic witchery pop-ups to break stereotypes and teach hill folks hoodoo and curious urbanites.
Love me some hoodoo.
In Appalachia, witchcraft is a family heirloom, not a vocation reserved for women alone. Today's Appalachian witches walk a bridge between past and present. Asheville's coven, old and wild. I love that, by the way.
That is wonderful.
Right? It is founded by Queen Lady Passion in 1994. It holds public Sabbats alongside Raven and Crone's incense-laden shop run by Lisa Anderson. Presley Randall hosts women's retreats on her newly acquired mountain property, teaching moon lore, herbcraft, and the sacred feminine in open-air groves.
And I bet they run around barefoot, touching the earth and energizing themselves through none of that.
Do that.
I know you can't. I can't sometimes, but sometimes I just walk outside and in my bare feet, stick my feet on the ground because I know grounding is good for you.
I should, but alas, I cannot. Though their customs have evolved, online workshops, herbal subscription boxes, and interfaith covens, they still honor the earth's rhythm. Each new moon finds them gathering rose petals for love charms. Each harvest brings talismans of gourds and late-blooming asters. In every whispered prayer and measured pinch of dandelion, the timeless heartbeat of Appalachian witchcraft carries on. So that is a little bit about the Appalachian witches. There is so much more.
Absolutely.
And we will cover more. Especially, there's some specific Appalachian witches that I would really, really like to dive into later. So that's just kind of the basics. We've mentioned a few in there. I think, like I said, I think it's really fascinating that, especially with Appalachian witches, it does come from Christianity.
Yeah, that's the thing that blows my mind about.
And it's not even that it just comes from that. They actually use it in their work. Like,
yes,
they use
the Psalms.
Yeah. And it's like that with a lot, which of course with Salem and some of the other ones, it was kind of the same thing, but it wasn't seen as using it. So, but we can get into the great book, The Hammer of Witches, which I have read, and that's glorious. So we'll get into that at some point too.
What book did you say?
It's translated as The Hammer of Witches. So basically, it's what to look for and how to get rid of them. We'll cover that.
What to look for it when you're like...
To find them.
Like to take them and burn them at the stake?
Right. Yeah, everything from a mole.
I'm out.
Oh, I'm all kinds of out.
I have that weird birthmark underneath my eye that not even filters take out.
Right. They have the third nipple.
I don't have a third nipple.
Too.
I had my super weird Buffy the Vampire mole removed.
But I have one.
Why am I just now learning this?
I can't. It's back. It's on my back. We'll get into that too. Not mine specifically, but I'll explain. It's basically they feed an imp with it. So that was something that they looked for. They would look for a third nipple and watch for an imp to come out at some point to feed off of said witches.
In reality, is it that if you have like extra things on your body, like body parts and whatnot, you were probably at some point a twin?
That's also part of it, yeah.
So if you have the extra awesome third nipple and I had to remove my mole off my neck like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, maybe back in the day we would have been at odds. I've been hunting you down and slaying you instead of being your friend.
Thanks.
I would not slay you. I would be a horrible vampire slayer. I'd be like, hey, let's be friends.
There's also the whole theory on like birthmarks. It leads back to how you died. So, like, if you have a birthmark in certain places, you were probably shot or stabbed, which is interesting, too.
And so I assume I was just beat to death in a past life.
I have several. I've been shot and stabbed a whole big bunch, I guess, because it's not good.
Do you have some that used to be there and aren't anymore? What does that mean? Do you know? I don't even know.
I have not looked into that, but now I'm kind of curious.
Me too.
Dive into how that happens.
The one on my arm comes and goes, like it's gone right now, then it'll come back. I don't know what that means. It's weird.
We have a mole on the bottom of our foot, like several women in my family also. I don't know what that means. They're all
it's another witch mark.
Place.
That's crazy.
It is. Anywho.
Yes.
We're going on about nipples and birthmarks, so.
We sure are. You know.
All right. You are up.
All right, I am up. All right, greetings, y'all. I am your guide, Amy, and I am here with a cryptid quickie. And this week's subject is going to be sheep squatch. And it is okay if you laugh at me if I mess that up, because I'm going to mess it up 100 times. It's really hard to say for whatever reason for me. Had you heard of this one before I bombarded you with all my notes about it?
I did. I've heard about it. This was a little lesser known.
Yes. So descriptions vary, but sheep squatch is typically described as being 8 to 9 feet tall, with white, wool-like fur, horns of a ram, a strong sulfur odor, and 2, sometimes 4, glowing red eyes. Some accounts say it walks on all fours, and others claim it stands upright like Bigfoot. Origin of sheep squatch is as shaggy and mysterious as the creature itself. While it doesn't have a single clear-cut origin story like some cryptids, the sheep squatch has roots stretching deep into Appalachian folklore, particularly in West Virginia, which is why I wanted to cover it. This wild woolly creature first gained attention in the early 20th century, with one of the earliest reported sightings dating back to 1908, when a West Virginia farmer claimed to have seen a shaggy creature with a sheep-like head walking on 2 legs near his property. However, the creature didn't really enter the public imagination until Ruth Ann Music's 1965 folklore collection, The Telltale Lilac Bush, which recounts a woman's eerie encounter with a white beast after church. Have you read that book? You remember scary stories to tell in the dark, more scary stories to tell in that. So, like, back in the day, 100 million years ago, those were, like, my kind of books. And so I had read The Telltale Lilac book. I have not that in many moons. I kind of want to go check it out
at some point.
I feel like everybody did.
Because I've read a lot.
We both worked in a bookstore, and we've probably forgot more books that we've read than anybody will read in their lives. Yeah. The legend of sheep squatch exploded in the 1990s when a spring of bizarre sightings across several West Virginia counties, including Boone, Putnam, Kanawha, and Mason, described a shaggy, white-furred creature with ram-like horns, glowing eyes, and a sulfuric stench. These reports gave rise to the name sheep squatch, which is a mashup of sheep and Sasquatch. And here are the few of those 1990s hair-raising tales, and every time I say 1990s, I hear Kevin James Thornton in my head going, "It was the 90s."
It was the 90s.
So in 1994, a group of women driving near the infamous TNT area in Point Pleasant, which I have never been to. It is linked to Mothman lore, and I can't believe I've never been there. Actually, I take that back. Well, we go driving around in the Jeep to random places and back roads and whatnot, and at some point we drove toward that or down the gravel part of the road that goes toward it, and I think the weather started to turn, so we turned around because we were in the Jeep with no doors. I think that's as far as I've been, so I haven't been fully into it, and I know you have. I'm pretty jealous. Oh, so the TNT area is linked to Mothman lore. And so these women spotted a towering white-furred creature with ram-like horns, and it froze in their headlights before vanishing into the woods. Again in 94, a former Navy seaman, Edward Rollins, was exploring near Bethel Church Road in Mason County when he saw a large sulfur-smelling beast drinking from a creek. It walked on all fours but had paw-like hands and a long snout. And I read another article that said he had actually been exploring around looking for evidence of Mothman.
Oh.
I don't know if that was true. I was just part of the article I read. In 1995, that's a great year. I graduated that year. A couple in Boone County saw a horned, four-eyed creature in a roadside ditch. They slowed down and it stood up and attacked the car, and it left claw marks down the side. In 1999, campers in Boone County were sitting around their bonfire when they heard snorting and crashing in the woods. Suddenly, this one scared the life out of me, okay?
Yeah.
Suddenly, sheep squatch lunged from the darkness, chased them to their cabin, and let out a blood-curdling scream before disappearing.
Nope.
No, thank you.
Absolutely not. That's not okay.
I'd have ran right to my vehicle and just left.
Yeah, I would have been done.
This is the worst one. Now, granted, I want to see a cryptid in my lifetime, but I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, it will scare the bejesus out of me.
Oh, yeah.
So the most recent reported sighting of sheep squatch occurred in 2015 near Folks Run, Virginia, when 6 campers, this one is horrible, absolutely horrible. It makes me want to never camp again. 6 campers claimed they saw a massive white-furred creature crouched on a hill around midnight. When it stood up, it charged down the hill toward them. A river separated the campers from the creature, but to their horror, it waded through the water. No, thank you. That's not the scariest part of this. Like seeing the sheep squatch itself and all this stuff that happens isn't the scariest part, but I'll get there. Just as it neared the campsite, a distant guttural screech echoed through the forest, not from the sheep squatch. This sheep squatch reportedly whimpered, turned, and fled into the woods, leaving campers shaken and scrambling to pack up and leave. Pack up? No thanks. I'm just going.
Sorry. Say what?
Bye.
You said it
Yes,
whimpered and turned?
it whimpered and turned and fled into the woods.
No.
What in the world scared this thing? What?
I
Absolutely.
hold real fast because
Yep.
I'm done.
Yep.
Absolutely not.
Like, if the sheep squatch is scared, I am terrified.
That's enough.
I'm
Hold on. Help.
Yeah, that's the scariest thing to me in all those stories. Like, a sheep squatch coming at you from across the river and wading across it is
No, that's bad enough.
that
Was
like
I was
how
done. I was already finished.
like how deep was the water? I don't. It didn't say.
It's a river. I mean,
It's a river. I'll have to
Yeah.
look that up and see if I can figure out what river that was. I didn't think to do that, but anyway, okay. So since then, there haven't been any officially documented sightings with as much detail or credibility. Thank God. It probably got in trouble by the other sheep squatch. It's sheep squatch. Maybe it is a family.
It's like
I don't doubt the existence of
Well,
anything, because how can you?
Mom was up there like, excuse me,
Right?
get up
Right.
here. And it was like,
You cannot
coming.
be that scary.
Mama, she's
All right. Side quest. Since then, there haven't been any officially documented sightings with as much detail or credibility, though rumors and anecdotal reports still pop up in cryptid forums and local lore. So sheep squatch has clawed its way into modern media and pop culture with a mix of eerie charm and Appalachian flair. Appears in the video game Fallout 76 alongside Mothman, Flatwood Monster, the Grafton Monster, and Wendigo, to name a few. I've never played that. Have you? I don't even know how to operate whatever gaming system that is, because not even Nintendo. I can work an Atari like a champ, but Nintendo's confuse me, right? It was featured on shows like Mountain Monsters and Monsters and Mysteries in America, which I've never watched. Mountains and Monsters or Monsters and Mysteries in America.
I've started watching Mountain Monsters not long ago.
Now, Mountain Monsters I have watched. It's the Monsters and Mysteries in America that I haven't watched. Now,
to
look that up.
No. Yeah, we'll have to find it.
The creature has inspired several indie comic series and folklore anthologies such as Sheep Squatch, The Legend of Appalachia, and Sheep Squatch, The Hunt Begins. You can see Sheep Squatch and many other mountain monsters at Cryptid Mountain Miniature Golf in Morgantown, West Virginia. So if any of our listeners have ever encountered a sheep squatch or any other Appalachian cryptid, if you could share your story with us via our email, which is Macabre.Musings.Podcast at gmail.com. And in the subject line, if you could write cryptid encounter and sheep squatch or whichever cryptid you encountered, that would be awesome. We might share your story on the show.
That is something that we want to do. All about hearing other people's stories and ideas for the show. We want to talk about what you want to hear. So if you ever have any, you are more than welcome to. You can Facebook us. You can email us. Either way.
We are on most of the socials, and most of them are under Macabre.Musings.Podcast.
Yes. They're also all linked on our Facebook. So if you're on there, you can find any of them. Right. So that was Sheep Squatch.
10 times fast.
Can't do it. All right. So we are going to move on. This one's a downer from the Sheep Squatch stories for sure. This is going to be about a lesser known serial killer. I had done a poll asking, what you guys would like to hear about, and we got more votes for this one. So we're going to start with him. This is probably going to be somewhat of a series. I will throw more of these in over time, but we're going to start with the meanest man in America.
Imagine how
he is not a good guy. Done some stuff. His name is Donald Henry Gaskins Jr. He was born on March 13th, 1933 in Florence County, South Carolina. He was the youngest of several illegitimate children of Eula Parrott.
Oh my God.
He was tiny, even as an infant, and immediately earned the nickname Pee-wee. His mother, it's
strike
Pee-wee
one.
Gaskins.
That would be two.
He started out
illegitimate and tiny.
Yeah, tiny illegitimate Pee-wee. His mother largely neglected him, which is sad, and his male relative frequently abused him, so he did not have a good start. At 1 year old, Gaskins accidentally drank kerosene and suffered convulsions until the age of 3. So his early years were not good. By age 11, Gaskins had dropped out of school and was involved in burglaries and assaults with 2 friends known as the Trouble Trio.
Okay, first of all, 11. What grade are you in at age 11? Is that like 4th or 5th grade?
Yeah.
Well, and then school was different back in those times too. So
It was.
I just,
I mean, to be fair, that was, let's see, he was born in 33. So, yeah. I mean, a lot of people probably at that point weren't even going to school.
this
They
is
were
true.
working and,
Because they had to help with
yeah.
their families. Mm-hmm.
So, but he took a different route. He was not working to help anything.
Part of a trio called the Trouble Trio.
I know. And who came up with it?
Here's my kid game. Who did do that? Who did do that?
I don't know. I should look that up and I'll let you guys know on Facebook if I can find that out because I'm really curious. And I
Yeah.
thought that one was the most epic title for you guys.
Oh, I guess it's like when the media gives nicknames to serial killers. No, it's almost glorifying,
It is.
which is gross.
It is. I agree. So at 13, he was convicted of assault after striking a girl over the head with an axe during a burglary and sent to South Carolina Industrial School for White Boys, where he repeatedly was raped. But
Industrial school for white boys.
for white boys, yes. And again, at 13.
So, not to be gross, was it the blunt side? Was it the bright side?
There's conflicting things, but I believe it was the actual axe side because if I'm not mistaken, it was still in her head when they found her. I've read several different versions of that part of it, and that seemed to be in most of the parts.
So she lived?
Yes,
Bless her.
she did.
And not in the southern way.
Right. So he married a 13-year-old after release at the age of 18, and he also worked a tobacco farm, but was imprisoned again in 1953 for attacking another teenage girl with a hammer. While incarcerated, he killed an inmate he claimed was the prison's most feared man, earning 3 extra years for involuntary manslaughter. But he then escaped again in 1955, was recaptured and paroled in 1961, soon resumed burglaries and fencing stolen goods, followed by 1963 conviction for statutory rape of a 12-year-old girl.
Gross.
So this was, let's see, when he first got out, he was 18. So he was well over the age of 18. He was paroled again in November of 1968. Gaskins began what he called his coastal kills in September 1969 by picking up a female hitchhiker, torturing her for days, and then drowning her in a swamp.
My God.
Yes. Over the next 6 years, he claimed to have killed dozens more hitchhikers, both men and women, using stabbing, suffocation, shooting, and mutilation, even confessing to cannibalism.
Oh, gross.
Law enforcement never corroborated most of these confessions, but they established his pattern of hunting random victims along South Carolina's highways for sexual and sadistic gratification. It's claiming a lot more than they have proof of so far, none of which are at all in any way good.
No.
In November of 1970, Gaskins committed his first confirmed murders. So all of these other ones have not been confirmed even to this day. But now, in 1970, he committed his first confirmed murders. His niece, Janice Kirby, age 15, and her friend, Patricia Ann Alsbrook, 17, whom he beat to death after a failed sexual assault.
Well,
Yes.
I have questions.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to talk about this, and I also have questions like he could not perform, and so he
Correct.
beat them to death. Not that they were.
And apparently the actual assault was to be on the friend rather than the niece, but they were both there and together. And I guess he couldn't.
He couldn't perform because he's a
Perform.
horrible human being and good.
Right.
Okay.
That. And I won't even say that it was maybe a conscience thing because obviously he does not have one of those.
No.
Between 1970 and 1975, he also raped and drowned Doreen Dempsey, 22, and her 2-year-old daughter.
Jesus.
Poisoned another young woman and served as a hitman, murdering targets and associates for pay.
Is that
Victims ranged. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Victims
like the
ranged.
hitman part was what I was talking about. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was also confirmed.
Okay.
Victims ranged from teenagers to acquaintances, totaling 15 confirmed murders, 10 of whom were under the age of 25. He buried many victims near his Prospect, South Carolina home and used a customized hearse to haul bodies to the shallow graves. He also had a sticker on the back of it that said something to the effect of "I haul bodies."
That's not okay.
It's really not. I love me a good hearse.
Yeah,
As a
I was sitting there
personal
going, purse? That's stellar.
But, right, that kind of ruins it.
This dude, not so much.
Yeah, he shouldn't have a hearse.
No.
So his downfall finally began with the disappearance of 13-year-old Kim Gilkins in September of 1975. Police found her clothing in his home and arrested him for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. I have some backstory with that. She was friends with his daughter and had come to their house. Her teacher...
He has a daughter?
Yeah, he has children. Remember, he married a 13-year-old when he was paroled.
And they had... okay. Which makes
the girl's teacher actually reported her missing. Oddly, not her parents. So her teacher said that she hadn't been to school for several days. Now, again, this is 1975, but, you know.
I mean, where were this girl's parents?
I couldn't find a whole lot on them, which is even more interesting. So I'm kind of wondering if she maybe ran away, but she apparently had stayed with several people, but his home with, I guess, his daughter was one of said places that she stayed.
Wow.
He had an accomplice. His name was Walter Neely, who was under investigation and led officers to 8 shallow graves, which, again, was near his home.
Wow.
On May 24th, 1976, a Florence County jury convicted Gaskins of murdering Dennis Bellamy and swiftly sentenced him to death by electric chair. In February 1978, the South Carolina Supreme Court overturned the death penalty statewide. Gaskins instead pleaded guilty to 9 murders and 1 burglary, receiving 10 concurrent life sentences. While serving at Central Correctional Institution, he murdered fellow death row inmate Rudolph Tyner using a homemade explosive, earning a second death sentence in March 1983. Can we just rewind that? A homemade explosive while in the Central Correctional Institute.
How did he get the stuff to make a homemade explosive?
Well,
prisoners come up. They're very inventive.
They really are. But I feel like a homemade explosive, like enough to literally blow someone up, that's some work. Like,
that is.
That should not go unnoticed.
That's what I was getting ready to say. How did that go unnoticed? Like,
right.
Were they not tossed
in real life? It was 83. Should have been picked up. On September 6, 1991, Donald Pee Wee Gaskins was executed by electrocution at Broad River Correctional Institution. Hours earlier, he had attempted to take his own life by slashing his wrists and forearms with a concealed razor blade, more on that in a second, necessitating some 20 stitches before he was strapped into the electric chair.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, more on that. You know how he concealed it?
You're going to tell me his bumhole, aren't you?
No, he wrapped it and swallowed it.
He pooped it out?
He did. And then he unwrapped it. How did it make it? I don't know. That was my question.
Your stomach acids would have... What did he wrap it? He wrapped it in...
I don't know.
I'm horrified. I don't care that this man...
No, good on him for... I'm glad he didn't end it, because then he got to go through all of that previous to being still strapped into the chair. But
questions about, maybe you're going to say something about this, Mama. I asked you just in case, and if you are going to say something about it, you can just tell me to hold my horses. But why would they stitch him up if they were sending him to the electric chair?
There is no more on that. There is no more on that. They stitched him up, and literally just a couple of hours later.
So, like,
he took us walk.
Maybe they wanted to make sure that this was him getting his full punishment. Like, you don't get to suffer your own demise the way you want it.
That's what I'm thinking. They chose to not let him choose how he gets to go on his own terms. He's still gonna, now you get to wait for a few hours at least. So his final words were, "I'll let my lawyers talk for me. I'm ready to go." That's all.
Then why with the slashing his wrists?
Right.
If he was...
I mean, I guess he was ready to go. By assumption, which to me personally, the thought of slashing myself with a razor blade that was once in my intestines doesn't seem like I would choose that route. But you know what? I don't know. I'm not Pee Wee.
I'm so glad you're not.
Me too.
Did his lawyers actually have anything to say other than, hey, this piece...
Not that I could find. No. I looked because I was like, just what exactly would he say if he had something to say? And I have not found anything further than that was his last words. So
I don't think that I could, in good conscience, have been a lawyer who defended this person. And I know there are criminal defense attorneys who do that, and good on
sure.
them.
Yeah.
I'm not the bigger person. I am petty.
No, I'm too petty for that. No, I would never make it in that world because.
No, absolutely not.
And you
First of all,
imagine
we'd be
either of us,
arrested because we
either of us in court trying to defend someone that we even had any tiny shred of doubt that they did or did not do these things, our faces would tell the judge everything he needed to know.
Well, and then our mouths would open up and words would fall out and we'd be held in contempt of court.
Yeah, we'd be in trouble also. So anywho, he died at 1 a.m. right after saying that, and thus ending the life of one of South Carolina's most notorious serial killers that most people have never heard of.
I had heard of Pee Wee Gaskins, but I did not know like all of the
details.
All of the details. And
yeah, and there's more.
I'm sure. Highlights.
Yeah, it's a whole lot. But I didn't realize, I have heard of him in my various readings of, serial killer books and things, but didn't know most of these things. I definitely didn't know the age ranges that he kind of kept to. That was something that I didn't know, and that was a little more shocking for me.
So the guy he killed, what did you say his name was? The one that got him arrested.
One that got him arrested?
Dennis Bellamy.
Dennis, yes.
Was that a hitman hit?
Yes, that was one of the for hire situations.
So I wonder if the person who hired him also got in trouble. See, I have so many questions.
See, and it doesn't, I know. We need to deep dive in that. We're going to have more info. Any of our stories, just so everyone is aware, we're going to have more on Facebook. That's where all of our little show notes and things are going to be. We're going to continue to post about all the things that we talk about at some point, just so you know. And if you have questions or want to know more about any of them, also let us know because we'll dig for you. We don't care. We will save you the trouble.
Fine.
So that was little Pee Wee Gaskins. So I'm going to go into our bizarre burials segment.
So excited for this.
It's a lot lighter than the story of Pee Wee. And I kind of settled on which one I was going to do. I had a ton of different ones, and this will definitely be a segment because there are some really, really wild burials and customs. So today we're going to do burial beads.
Really excited about this. Did I tell you that today my youngest should be on her way or is at somewhere in, it's just a brief stop for the day or a few hours or something, I think. But
it's still really wild. It's kind of cool.
Korea was a stop. It's a Japan trip. So it was just.
Well, I didn't know that until you said something. Just so everybody's aware. Don't believe that there's any words or names in here that I'm not going to be able to say, but in the event that there is, I apologize. And I don't see.
We're Appalachian. We talk funny and we mispronounce things.
We do. I do try to look them up and attempt to get it right. Some of them, it's not going to happen with the accent. So bear with us. We do apologize. We don't mean to offend. South Korea passed a law in 2000 requiring graves to be exhumed 60 years after burial, driven by limited. Yeah. And this is a recent one. This isn't even some crazy, old one, but it's very fascinating.
It's a little bit ago, and that was recent for me. So
that's true.
That was last week.
We're not going to go back there, unfortunately.
I'm going to shut up now because this is fascinating. Please continue. Tell me more.
So in 2000, they required graves to be exhumed 60 years after burial, driven by limited land and a rising death rate in dense urban areas.
I love this, except for the macabre-ness of it. Because I always wonder what's going to happen when we run out of land for cemeteries. That's why I want to be cremated.
And it happens a lot more than you think. Everywhere.
Really?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
We'll learn a lot about that's kind of where a lot of these go, is running out of room. So they have to get creative on how they're going to handle that. In one generation, cremation rates soared from about 20.5% to over 82.7% as families sought alternatives to traditional burial plots. As cremation became the norm, artisans began transforming ashes into decorative beads rather than storing them in urns. This practice offered a way to keep loved ones physically present, displayed in glass containers or while adhering to both modern constraints and Confucian ideals of ancestor veneration. Creating burial beads typically follows these steps.
This is fascinating.
It's definitely fascinating. Collect and purify the cremated remains to remove impurities. Pulverize the ashes into a fine powder. Ultra high temperatures to melt the powder into a molten state. Allow the molten material to crystallize into gem-like beads, and then you sort, polish, and sometimes color treat the beads for uniformity. And they will all be in different shapes. You can do different colors. You can basically make them into different things.
I can totally see you doing this as a profession.
I would love to do this.
That would be amazing. And you're a good artist too. So I feel like
it would be glorious to do. I'll have to look into that and see if that's a thing here at all. I'm not sure that it is.
If it is, please take some of my ashes if I go before you and make them into a bead, and then pass me down through generations and have wild stories.
The entire process, oddly, takes about 90 minutes. That's it. And yields roughly 4 to 5 cups of beads per person. I know. Up to 8 cups when bone density is higher. That's a lot. That's a lot of beads. Yes. And the cost for this process is $900 to $1,200 per set in US dollars. It's cheaper.
Probably in the grand scheme of things is way cheaper.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like if you go for like the cost of traditional burial with your casket and all of that stuff, that's thousands of dollars. So if you go with your cremation costs, which is at average $1,500 to $2,000, which you have to have that done first, of course. So still for, we'll say about $4,000 to be cremated and then have this done, still cheaper.
Still way cheaper, yeah.
I mean, you're going to pay more than that just for a casket. And then you get literally like tons of these gorgeous beads instead.
Yeah, which makes more sense than, because eventually no one's going to remember anything about the person who is in that urn. So that was why I just went out
and people don't know what to do with
spread. Right.
I bought someone at Goodwill.
I have,
you know what I mean?
Called Mike over there.
Yeah. Yeah,
a little tube.
So, and
that's just walking around with people's ashes.
It's not that crazy that people just don't, and I still don't know if they've just like tossed them into their stuff that they're getting rid of at Goodwill, or
they just
if
forgot.
They're just like, I don't know what to do with Grandma, so let me just, her urn's pretty. So let me
just put it on the mantle.
Maybe somebody will decorate with her.
This no longer matches the decor.
Right.
And they do go in and out of styles.
This urn is dated. It doesn't match my living room. But, you know, someone's grandma or grandpa, I do not have information on it, is on my mantle. And I talk to him or her all of the time.
I'll take Mike, but he is in a cool little casket thing that was supposed to be for something else. But I showed you. He's in a
it's perfect.
Thing. Maybe we'll put a picture up of what I've done for Mike. I have Mike because our mutual friend Scotty won him on some sort of an auction, or I don't know. He legally purchased this. This wasn't an illegal thing. It was, and he walks in my house and he goes, "Here's Mike," and he's in a tube, and I died 1,000 deaths because I don't know anything about Mike. What if I had a bad person chilling over there? So that's why he's in the coffin with the things and the crystals.
Protected in the coffin. Not just protected for himself, but protected for all involved. I did. I saged whomever I have. And I just try to keep them happy by talking to them in a nice way. Like, good morning, how are you? Yeah. I'm going to dust you now. So anywho, we should all be burial beads, to be honest, because maybe people wouldn't drop some grandma off to Goodwill. It's kind of depressing. Anyway, burial beads serve as more than decoration. They embody the duty to honor ancestors and ensure their spirits transition safely to the afterlife under Confucian tradition. So families describe the beads as holy and warm, providing daily comfort without the perceived creepiness of scattering ashes or plain urns, which, despite being a modern innovation, ashes to beads services remain popular in South Korea. leading firms reported hundreds of clients annually, and several religious organizations have adopted bead-making machines to memorialize congregants. In modern day, are they still used? Yes. The practice continues to grow in South Korea, driven by space concerns, cultural acceptance, and the aesthetic appeal of the beads. Attempts to introduce the concept abroad, especially in the US and Europe, have met limited success as overseas markets remain attached to more familiar memorial traditions. So it's not here, but it's limited. Honestly, I think that in today's world, it would probably be far more accepted. We've been trying to introduce it. We're flying people to space.
Yeah.
Right, so. And I'll post some pictures of some of these. I have a ton of pictures of what these look like. You can have them done into jewelry, or you can just have the beads in a jar or whatever you want. I think that the jewelry aspect would be really, really cool.
Yes, and then you can pass that down throughout the generations, and you can have a little story that goes with it. And I just looked on the interwebs, and there are websites where you can send cremains and have them made into jewelry.
That's cute.
I'll send
we
that.
will share that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll share that too. You never know. I think it would be really cool.
I think it'd be amazing.
Yeah, I would wear beads for sure.
Absolutely.
It'd be glorious. And then you kind of got to go back to like the mourning jewelry from way back. Hair and,
yes,
weave it into patterns and things.
Like it looks like lace, but it's made of hair.
Yes, it's absolutely gorgeous, which is crazy.
Some of the arts that they do, I mean, some of it's not that, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but intricate. But
intricate.
It's beautiful.
It is. Yeah, that is Korean burial beads.
All right, so I wanted to give a quick shout out to, if you're not following them on Facebook, they also have I keep saying it's a guy, his name is JD, but he also has a podcast. It's called Creepalachia, and his Facebook page is Creepalachia, but he posted on the Creepalachia page, I think it was around July 13th, and the post stuck with me because we've been talking about on this podcast for a few months now, and one of the things we talked about was missing people, but his post said the estimation of missing people in West Virginia right now is around 400. They don't all make the list. #awareness. That number sort of blew me away, and then I realized that's probably small in comparison to, say, where you are in your state.
For its size, that's a lot.
Yes. But he was so right when he said that they don't all make the list. The list I found on WBOY for West Virginia only has 154 people on the West Virginia State Police page, and I am not the greatest with technology, and maybe I wasn't navigating their page right, but I only found 16. Now that's 16 people. That was 16 people with their pictures. I know you can see behind me, but that right there, that's what that is. Yeah. Wow. I printed it off. One of the people was actually listed as missing and is wanted in connection with 2 murders. So it's not just people who are missing; it's people because of foul play or But that was one of the people who's missing. And maybe he did meet with foul play. Who knows? So my plan is to mention a missing person from West Virginia at the end of each episode, and I want to give some information about their case. And this one was actually a request from Miss Jennifer, and so shout out to her. So this is missing person Luke David Stout, and he is missing from Buchanan, which is in Upshur County, West Virginia. His nickname is Lukey, and he has been missing since July 18th, 2012. He was 24 at his disappearance. He is 5'6" to 5'8" in height. 110 to 120 pounds. He has brown hair and brown eyes. He has some distinguishing features such as a tattoo. It is black, possibly skulls on his upper left arm. He has a large burn scar below one knee, a previously pierced left ear, and wore a silver prayer ring with a spinning center. I'm wondering if that's like my fidget ring that I have.
Yes.
If that's what that means. Okay. The circumstances of his disappearance. Luke was last seen between 3 and 5 p.m. walking down the driveway of his home on Hickory Flat Road, carrying a green bicycle frame. He planned to meet a friend named Dylan to fix the bike. Dylan had arranged a ride for Luke, but the identity of the driver remains unknown, which I think is wild. He had recently abandoned his own bike in Buchanan due to broken handlebars. That bike was later found behind a CVS near a trailer belonging to a man nicknamed Buddha. Despite the discovery, police reportedly did not investigate the trailer park or question residents at the time. Luke was a carpenter by trade, known for being hardworking, artistic, and poetic. He lived at home to care for his terminally ill mother, Elizabeth Stout, and was deeply devoted to his family. He enjoyed skateboarding, comic books, video games, including World of Warcraft, and drawing. The West Virginia State Police did not approve assistance from EquiSearch, which is a volunteer group. And in December of 2022, and I think this is what brought it to Jennifer's attention, and she just kind of was like, it got drawn into it. Law enforcement conducted a dig near Ellamore, I hope I said that right, searching for Luke's remains on property owned by Carl Cracker Tenney. No confirmed discoveries were made, and the search warrant remained sealed. The case is still considered active, with occasional leads but no breakthrough. If you have information, contact Corporal Pyle, Berkshire County State Police Detachment, 304-473-4200. And the case number is MP 16962.
It's interesting that they did the dig. Like, nothing's been said.
Don't know what the circumstances that brought them to that dig site.
Yeah.
I do know that the owner said that if he was on his property, he didn't know it. That was in an article that I read.
Well, I think that is all we have, guys. We want to thank you so much for hanging out with us today and for bearing with us. This is our launch, so there's going to be hiccups and all the things. So if you made it this far, we appreciate you.
We do.
And we do hope that you come back.
We do.
With all of the technical issues and chaos around having to redo everything and all of that, we're happy to be here. Believe me.
If you all missed that, Bambi's computer took a holy crap.
Yeah. So basically, my old girl laptop that I've had for a very long time.
Since the dawn of man.
With thousands and thousands of pictures on it. Listen, I knew going in that she couldn't handle a lot. But I did not think that one app was going to kill her off. But here we are. So I had I came in one morning to actually finalize editing for the music and the entire layout of how everything was. And my computer was like, we're self-diagnosing. And I was like, same here. What we got? And then I realized it wasn't fitting and that it was never actually going to self-diagnose anything, but it was going to get stuck in a perpetual auto repair loop. Don't know if you've ever experienced that before. It's not cute. So
it's like the red ring of death on an.
I thought, okay, well, I'm pretty tech savvy. I'm going to go in and I'm just going to command prompt and go back and fix whatever happened, except it requires a password, which I have. I've used it for years, but it said that's not it. So no, I'm not doing anything. So
you sent me that message and was like, hey, my computer took a crap. I didn't even blink. I was like, oh, okay, she'll fix it. And then you were like, I'm ordering a whole new computer.
Yeah, it was like 2 days later because I had literally sat here for 2 straight days going, I will fix this. And then it was like, I even spoke to like the folks over there at the Windows, and they were like, all right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a copy of Windows on a USB for you. Do you have another computer? So I grabbed Craig's computer and he got me through that with like an hour and a half of work. And so now I just have a copy of Windows for it. But then he informed me that I'm going to want to reach out to somebody to get all of my pictures off of it. So that's where we're at right now. We're going to get the pictures off, and
so
then maybe I can redo it.
I'm so sorry that happened, but I'm glad we're here doing this today. We're old and we don't like to learn new things.
That's where I'm at. I would like to have my Windows 10 back because I knew what I was doing on it. So we appreciate you, and we are so glad that you are here.
Yes. Pull up a chair next time as we dive into more deep, creepy lore and maybe tumble down a rabbit hole or two. Keep your lanterns low and your curiosities high.
And we will see y'all later. This episode is dedicated to the late, great legend, Ozzy Osbourne. Thank you, Prince of Darkness. Recipes.